Hello and welcome to my supermarket tour. So for my tour, I have chosen the supermarket or the grocery store known as Freshco, which is in the city of Brampton, which is where I'm from. This is the supermarket closest to my home, and I thought it would be interesting to investigate and analyze the foods and the supermarket itself that me and my own family rely on, purchase from, and ingest foods from. I also feel from investigating this specific supermarket that I could learn a lot that could benefit me as a customer and consumer who is buying stuff from this specific supermarket. So the aisle that I chose to investigate is the produce aisle. I feel that this is one of the most important parts of the supermarket because it is the first thing you see as a consumer when you walk in. Everyone needs and buys some sort of fruits and vegetables, especially nowadays with the popularity of people wanting to eat healthier. So it would be interesting to really investigate the produce in terms of where it comes from and how it's marketed towards the consumers and customers. After having read the supermarket tour and the chapter on produce, I knew there were two things that I wanted to specifically focus on when I went into my investigation at the supermarket. One of which was the appearance of the foods and specifically focusing on how they market their foods and the way that they appear because of the stuff that I had read about waxes and pesticides that were used to basically make sure that the foods looked appealing. Also, I wanted to focus on the miles of the foods and where they had come from because not everything that they sell in the supermarket is obviously from Ontario. And also, I wanted to see the comparison in terms of the stuff that they had that was local and stuff that was from, not from Canada, and if there was any changing in marketing and how they were marketed to the consumers, along with if they did affect any pricing of the foods as well. One of the first things that caught my eye as I walked into the supermarket were these really shiny and perfect looking green bell peppers that were placed right at the front as you walked into the store. After having read about the uses of waxes that improve the appearance and they're also used to protect the foods from bruising and spoiling, I could see that these were actually being used on the bell peppers that I was looking at. These bell peppers were physical proof of what I had read in the supermarket tour, and that waxes and pesticides were actually being used a lot on foods that I myself ingest on a daily basis. This also made me think how oblivious we are as consumers when we go into a supermarket to buy food. These stores and these companies specifically market these foods, make them shiny and appealing so that we'll buy them. But from our perspective, we're thinking, oh, well, the food is fresh and it's nutritious because it looks a certain way. A part of me also wants to question if this is ethical. Are they doing the right thing by selling foods to us that have so many pesticides and waxes that make them appear a certain way so that they'll buy them, but in reality, the stuff that's being used and the chemicals that are being used to make them look this way could be really affecting our health in a negative way. At the supermarket, I often find myself and also see others picking out the apple that looks the least bruised and looks the most shiny, so I could put it in my bag to purchase. But from now on, I'm pretty sure that that won't be the case, and I will not be fooled and will not be judging a book by its cover or an apple by its shininess. After having toured the produce section of this supermarket, I began to look into where most of the fruits and vegetables were coming from. At this supermarket specifically, I actually noticed two rows in the produce section which were all fruits that were from places other than Canada and the United States, places like Guatemala and Mexico, just to name a few. The majority of the fruits and vegetables being sold at this supermarket in the produce section were from outside of Canada and the USA. Another thing I noticed was the prices of these fruits. You would think that since they're being imported from different countries from all around the world, the prices would be a lot higher. But for some of the foods, the prices were actually very cheap. Now, although my opinion on the imported foods being cheap is a personal one, it makes me remember what I read in the supermarket tour and how these organizations oversee trade negotiations so that there's a global free trade without big tariffs and taxes, which is good for places like Canada, but probably very disadvantaging and less profitable for less developed countries growing and selling these fruits and vegetables, like Guatemala and Peru and Costa Rica. Another thing I want to talk about are the apples sold at the supermarket. The supermarket's apples were all grown in Ontario except for one kind that were grown in the USA. I thought that was quite neat. I also noticed that there was a sign that was marketing and promoting foods grown in Ontario, especially apples, posted in the produce section of the supermarket. Other vegetables and such that were grown in Ontario all had little signs at the bottom of their regular signs saying good things grow in Ontario. This is a type of advertising and marketing that's been done in Ontario for quite a long time, and it's basically based off of the slogan good things grow in Ontario, and it's for supporting local farmers and assisting Ontario producers to maximize their market share. So I thought that this was really cool that they incorporated this into the actual physical supermarket, as I had never really seen this before, and I thought it was a good way to let the consumer know what things were actually grown in Ontario and promote it in a more positive and beneficial light. Regardless of the fact that there were only a small number of things that were actually grown in Ontario that were being sold at this specific supermarket. This experience definitely made me feel like I am the ideal consumer for what these supermarkets are trying to accomplish. I buy the foods that they make appear nice from the waxing, and I don't really care where the food's from, as long as it looks good and it's reasonably priced. I was most surprised by what was talked about on wax as making the food appealing, as I never really questioned this before as to why these fruits and vegetables looked a certain way and if they were supposed to look this way. I think this will definitely be changing mine and my family's supermarket routine for sure. Because of this, I will now be looking for the fruits and vegetables that look the least shiny and also be putting more effort into cleaning my fruits and vegetables before I eat them. This experience also makes me want to promote foods that are grown locally and also buy foods that are grown in Ontario and encourage others to as well. It will also feel good to know that I'm supporting local Canadian farmers with their businesses. This investigation has definitely made me a more critical person, and I question more when I'm purchasing and buying something at a supermarket, which I think is very beneficial to me as a consumer and to my health in the long run, and hopefully for you as a viewer as well. Thank you so much for watching.